Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is politics reporter Sara Dorn. Sara, thanks for coming on.
Hi, Brittany. Thank you for having me.
Within the past few days, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy seems to really be coming around to the idea of opening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Before we get started, can you walk us through what is an impeachment inquiry?
Yes, so as we know, former President Donald Trump went through two previous impeachment inquiries, and the way this works is the House will vote to formally impeach a president or a member of their cabinet. This happened to Donald Trump in 2019 and again in 2021, and then the Senate conducts a trial. And in order to, formally impeach, eject the president, the Senate has to agree with 2/3 of a vote of its members. So it's very unlikely that even if the House were to vote to impeach Biden, that this would pass the Democratic-controlled Senate. Already there is not a broad consensus among Republicans in either chamber as to whether they want to continue to move forward with this Biden impeachment push. So it looks a bit unlikely. And yes, we are hearing more, serious threats of an impeachment against Biden right now. But this is something that, Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced a similar resolution during last session of Congress that never went anywhere. Right now, where the current impeachment movement stands against Biden is the House voted last month when Lauren Boebert forced a vote on her resolution to impeach him, and the House voted to refer that resolution to committee. So the committee is currently, investigating the merits of this impeachment inquiry, and if they gather what they deem as sufficient evidence, they could put the resolution back before the House for a formal vote.
I do want to discuss the why here because why do some Republicans want to impeach the president? Is this a tit for tat? Hey, you guys, the Democrats impeached Donald Trump twice. Now we want to impeach President Biden. What do they believe he did here that surmounts to an impeachment?
So I think that, yes, for some Republicans, it is sort of a tit for tat, but I think that some Republicans are also wary of agreeing to this idea out of concerns that they may be accused of hypocrisy, as so many in the party widely derided Democrats for impeaching former President Donald Trump and said that they did not have sufficient evidence to do so. The current allegations, as I mentioned, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene both have resolutions to impeach Biden, and those cite his immigration policies at the southern border. What they say is, a lack of security at the border, and that he has let too many illegal immigrants in. However, I think it's notable that Lauren Boebert she vowed to force a vote, and that later came to fruition on the same day that the Justice Department announced the plea agreement between Hunter Biden, the president's son, and the Justice Department. And many Republicans widely criticized the agreement, including former President Donald Trump, as too lenient. So this seems to be part of an effort to push back on that as well. And this impeachment effort has really, at the time that Lauren Boebert introduced her resolution last month, Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, was against this. He said it was premature. But in the weeks since, as more details have come out surrounding these bribery allegations against President Joe Biden that involve his son, and allegations that they were paid by the CEO of a Ukrainian energy company that Hunter Biden was once sat on the board of, to essentially pressure Ukraine to fire a prosecutor who was investigating the company Burisma. So it's a complex web involving the president, his son, and of course this push to impeach Biden is definitely echoing a lot of former President Donald Trump's concerns and allegations against the president and the Justice Department over its handling of Hunter Biden's case in comparison to his own.
I do want to get to Hunter Biden in a moment, but you did mention that the Republicans pushing for impeachment at first were the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. I know you're saying this is still fringe, but do you see it moving towards maybe a more mainstream GOP movement?
Right now, honestly, I don't. I think, there were a lot of Republican lawmakers in the House, in Kevin McCarthy's own conference, who came out this week and said that there are bigger issues to be worrying about. And again, I think that there are fears within the party that if they did move forward with this effort, then they would be criticized of hypocrisy again, because they widely condemned the first two impeachments of former President Donald Trump. So some of the Republican lawmakers who, criticized McCarthy, I'm speaking specifically to Representative Ken Buck of Colorado. He called this political theater in an interview with CNN earlier this week and said that he believes McCarthy is doing this essentially to placate Republicans who are upset about the debt limit agreement that he negotiated with the White House. So it's really hard to know what McCarthy's motivations are in saying this, but I think that there is merit, to this idea presented by Buck that he's trying to play both sides here, and show the right-wing lawmakers, some goodwill as he is trying to negotiate this spending deal. And by that I mean the budget negotiations for fiscal year 2024 are ongoing. They are due at the end of September when the current fiscal year expires. And there's a lot of, that's the main focus for lawmakers on Capitol Hill in both the Senate and the House right now. And there's, again, a lot of concern that, the right wing is going to resist any budget that is put forward because of the deal that McCarthy agreed to with Biden on the debt ceiling that set spending caps that they do not believe went far enough. So there's a ton of political maneuvering going on right now, and it's really hard to say what McCarthy's motivations are and giving some merit to this impeachment push. But as of now, I don't see, again, it having enough consensus just within the Republican Party alone for this to move forward.
I do now want to talk about a name that you brought up, a name that really has been a dark cloud over President Biden from the 2020 election on, and that is his son, Hunter Biden. He was expected to plead guilty on Wednesday to federal charges as part of a supposed plea deal. In the 11th hour, that really fell apart. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, so last month, again, the Justice Department announced that it had reached a plea agreement with Hunter Biden in its 5-year-long probe that began as an investigation into his foreign business dealings and snowballed to encompass, his tax issues and a gun purchase that he made in 2018. The agreement would have required Biden to plead guilty to two misdemeanor charges of failing to file taxes in 2017 and 2018. I guess the back taxes that he initially owed reportedly amounted to around $2 million, and he has said that he has since paid them back. The third charge that he was facing was a charge for purchasing a gun in 2018 when he was a drug user, and he filled out a required disclosure form and said that he did not use drugs. He later revealed to crack cocaine at the time. And that charge related to the gun purchase, he was expected to enter a diversion program, in exchange for not essentially having the charge on his record. And the diversion program would require him to stay clean for a certain period of time, and then it would be off his record. He was expected to receive probation in exchange for, regarding the tax charges. So now what happened in federal court yesterday, he went there expecting to plead guilty. The judge, Mary Ellen Norica, she is a Trump-appointed judge, questioned, really there were two main aspects of the plea deal that she raised issue with. And one was that the gun charge was somehow linked to the tax charges. And the other issue is she asked prosecutors, do you expect to bring additional charges against Hunter Biden after this plea agreement? And they did not rule out bringing additional charges, and she specifically mentioned the charge of failing to register as a foreign agent. And so when she said this, and the Justice Department said that future charges were not out of the question, Hunter Biden's attorney said, then the deal is off. This was a 3-hour hearing. Hunter Biden's attorneys and Hunter Biden himself reportedly became, visibly upset in the courtroom, and they broke for recess, could not come to an agreement. So he returned to court, pleaded not guilty to the tax charges, and the judge has given them 30 days to file, additional briefings in the case and work out these details.
The scene in the courtroom was described as many as dramatic, and as we know, many Republicans have called that plea deal a sweetheart deal. Does it seem like the judge agreed with that?
I wouldn't say that she indicated it was too lenient. It just seems that she, introduced some areas of some points that the prosecution and Biden's lawyers seem to have not discussed, which seems a bit odd, considering this is a 5-year-long case, and certainly they obviously negotiated the plea deal ahead of time, and one would think that whether future additional charges, that was something that had been discussed. So it was really surprising that this happened yesterday.
Can you lay out for us, is this bad for Hunter Biden? Is it bad for the prosecution? What's next after this deal failed? Is the likelihood of him facing additional charges now increased? What does this all look like?
So I definitely think that it's bad for Hunter Biden. He wanted to be done with this. At the same time, it's not great for the Justice Department either, because they said when the plea agreement was announced that the investigation was ongoing and he could still face additional charges. Now, this portion of it is delayed, and they are going to have to work out some sort of concessions with Hunter Biden that were not laid out in the initial plea agreement, in order to get him to plead guilty as they had agreed upon previously. I don't think that either side, these are misdemeanor tax violations. He has already paid them back. He was only expecting to face probation for these issues. So it's a relatively, minor case. I know it involves the president's son, so obviously that magnifies things, but the charges themselves are not that serious. And I don't think that the Justice Department wants to be, spending too much more time on these specific charges, and especially if they have more serious allegations against Hunter Biden that they are investigating. This is holding everything up.
And so anything we should specifically be watching for next?
Yes, as I said, they're expected to file new briefings in the case within the next 30 days. The judge ordered that, so it will be interesting to see what the revised plea agreement, if they can even reach a new agreement, entails, and whether prosecutors promise that they will not bring additional charges specifically related to failing to register as a foreign agent.
Sara Dorn, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brittany.